welcome demigods, monsters, and gods to the Olympus Report. Did you think that Percy got to lead a peaceful life after the last Olympian? Well, you thought wrong. Percy's story is far from over, but he does take a back seat in this newest edition. So sit back, get comfortable, because let me tell you, Half-Bloods, we are in for a journey. Here's everything you need to know about the Lost Hero. Before we hop into the unofficial 6th Percy Jackson book, here's a recap of events so far. The Greek gods are real and tend to hook up with mortals, resulting in demigods, half-human, half-god offspring. These children go to Camp Half-Blood, where they learn how to defend themselves from threats and monsters. Percy Jackson, a demigod son of Poseidon, defeated the Titan Lord Kronos and stopped him from overthrowing the gods with the help of his friends, specifically Grover and his now girlfriend Annabeth. Rachel Elizabeth Dare, the new Oracle of Delphi, spoke a new great prophecy. 7 half-bloods shall answer the call. To storm or fire the world must fall, an oath to keep with a final breath, and foes bear arms to the doors of death. Alright, let's jump into the Heroes of Olympus. Our first novel starts by introducing us to a new character named Jason. Who is Jason? Well, not even Jason knows that. He wakes up on a bus and has absolutely no idea who he is. The only thing he does know is his name. He's holding hands with a girl, a very pretty girl, according to Jason, and a bunch of other kids who seem to be his age. However, Jason quickly realizes he doesn't know what age, since he doesn't know how old he is, or how he got here, or really anything else besides his name. The girl next to him asks if he's okay, but before he can answer, a coach from the front of the bus gets everyone's attention. The coach tells everyone that they have almost arrived and to stay with their partner and make sure they have their worksheet. Jason swears for a second that when the coach looked at him, the coach knew that Jason didn't belong on the bus, but then the moment disappears when the coach continues yelling at the rest of the kids. Jason asks the girl who he's holding hands with if the coach is allowed to talk to them that way, and the girl says he always does. Like all the teachers at the wilderness school, where the kids are treated no better than animals. Jason says he doesn't belong here, but he's interrupted by a boy laughing at him. The boy says, yeah, right, just like he didn't run away and how Piper didn't steal a BMW. Piper, the girl next to Jason, tells Leo to shut up and says she didn't steal anything. The salesman just gave her the car when she asked. Leo, the boy, continues to talk to Jason, but stops when he notices Jason just staring at him. He asks if there's something on his face. And Jason once again says he does not belong here. He has no idea who Leo or Piper is. Leo laughs and says, sure, I'm totally not your best friend. I'm his evil twin. Jason says he's serious, but the three are interrupted by the coach, known as Coach Hedge. Leo yells at the coach that they can't hear him all the way in the back of the bus and to use the megaphone. When Hedge goes to use the megaphone, his words come out as, the cows go moo, and the bus erupts into laughter, including Piper, who says, I don't know how you do it, Leo. Leo just says he has special skills. Jason asks why they are there and where they're going, and Piper starts to worry. She asks if maybe Jason hit his head, and Jason of course doesn't know since he has no idea who he is. They then arrive at a museum. Leo, in a joking way, gives Jason a crash course on their current situation. They go to the Wilderness School, a school for delinquents and criminals, and Coach Hedge keeps them in order with his baseball bat. Oh, and Jason does whatever Leo says, including giving him his dessert. Piper then yells at Leo for the last part, and Leo tells Jason that's a joke. But seriously, they are all friends. And in the last few weeks, Jason and Piper have been just a bit more than friends. Piper at this point is seriously worried about Jason. But before she can figure out what to do for him, they are interrupted by the school, jock, and bully, Dylan, who Piper has unfortunately been paired up with, so they all head inside the museum. As they're walking, Jason notices that Leo keeps pulling nuts and bolts out of his army jacket, almost as if Leo consistently needs to fiddle with something. Coach Hedge then gets their attention and starts going on and on about the Grand Canyon and the Native American tribe, the Hualapai. At this, Jason notices that the group of popular girls look over at Piper and snicker. They ask Piper if her tribe owns this place and if she can get in free by doing a rain dance. Piper tells them that her dad is Cherokee, not Hualapai, but she can't fault them for not knowing the difference considering they all share one brain cell. The girls do not find this funny and counter with, oh, it must be on Piper's mom's side then. But wait, Piper doesn't know who her mom is because she walked out on her. At this, Piper charges them, but Hedge breaks it up before anything can happen. The girls continue to say rude things about Piper, and Jason wants to step in because despite not remembering Piper, he knows he hates bullies. Leo tells Jason to relax and that Piper doesn't like them to fight her battles. Besides, if the girls knew who Piper's actual dad was, they wouldn't say that stuff. Jason is confused by this, and Leo finally starts to believe that maybe Jason actually does have amnesia. They then head out to the Grand Canyon, and Jason can't help being impressed. It's almost as if someone cut the earth. At this, Jason gets an intense pain in his head, but it quickly goes away. Jason can't help but think he almost remembered something important. Jason and Leo continue to work on their worksheet as a storm starts to brew. Jason notices that Leo has made a helicopter out of pipe cleaners with a working propeller and is impressed. Jason then starts to ask Leo some questions about their supposed friendship. And when asked, Leo finds that he actually doesn't know the answer to any of the questions, including Jason's last name. Which is weird. You would think you would know your best friend's last name. Leo blames it on ADHD, but Jason isn't buying it. What if Jason is actually the only one that's right, and everyone else is wrong and was just given false memories about Jason? Everyone except maybe Coach Hedge, who keeps staring over at Jason suspiciously. So Jason goes to talk to Coach Hedge, and Hedge says he's never seen Jason before today. This makes Jason feel just a bit better. Maybe he's not actually crazy. Hedge asks what he's up to, but Jason tells him he has no idea how he got here. Hedge says he's been smelling monsters, but Jason smells more like a half-blood. Jason has absolutely no idea what Hedge is talking about, but pleads with Hedge to help him. Hedge complains about how he now needs to keep an eye on 3 half-bloods instead of 2. Hedge asks if Jason is the special package, and Jason is even more confused by this. Hedge explains that he received an iris message from camp this morning telling Hedge that an extraction team was coming for a special package, but they wouldn't say what it is. Hedge thought maybe it was the 2 half-bloods he's been watching, as they are pretty powerful and are older than most and definitely being stalked. Hedge says it doesn't matter and they will let the director of the camp figure it out. The words camp, director, and half-blood make Jason's head start hurting all over again. And then the storm gets worse, and the catwalk begins to shake. The storm turns into a mini hurricane. Coach, Piper, Leo, and Jason get everyone inside, but before they can get inside themselves, Dylan, the school jock, and his lackeys block the door, trapping them outside. Dylan then blasts Piper back. Dylan is a Ventus, a wind monster. Coach Hedge tells everyone to get behind him, but Dylan laughs and says there's no way an old man like him can protect 3 half-bloods. Dylan then blasts Leo over the ledge, and Leo is just barely holding on. Hedge tells Jason to keep Dylan distracted while he gets Leo. Hedge then kicks off his shoes to reveal hooves. Jason automatically says, "You're a fawn." But Hedge says, "No, I'm a satyr. Fawns are Roman." Hedge then climbs over the edge to rescue Leo. Jason tries to take on Dylan, but Dylan keeps dissolving into wind. Dylan mentions how he's happy he waited. He had known about Piper and Leo for weeks, but his mistress told him an even more powerful demigod would be coming if he waited. Dylan blasts Jason with electricity, but miraculously, Jason is completely unharmed. He then pulls a gold coin out of his pocket, saying, Now it's my turn. He gives the coin a flip, almost instinctively. When he catches it, it's a sword. He vaporizes Dylan's lackeys into gold dust. Coach Hedge then returns from rescuing Leo and goes to face the Venditti, but is disappointed when he realizes Jason has already destroyed most of them. Dylan then tells them that they can't win and that they've awakened many enemies, and his mistress will destroy all demigods. Dylan then lunges for Jason, but Piper tackles him from behind, and she's able to make contact. But Dylan quickly sends her flying over the edge. Hedge tells Jason that he will handle Dylan and to go save Piper. Jason is completely bewildered on how to do this because Piper was just sent flying over the edge into the Grand Canyon. Jason then thinks he's gone completely insane because the next thing he knows, he jumps off the edge after her. Jason catches Piper and then Jason expects the impact to come, but it doesn't. Jason is flying. Jason then takes them both back up to the catwalk. When they return, just Leo is left. Dylan has disappeared with Coach Hedge. Jason tells Leo and Piper that Hedge said he needed to protect 3 kids, and Jason thinks that Hedge meant them. Leo also brings up how Hedge called them demigods, but before they can talk more, they are interrupted by a chariot in the sky being pulled by flying horses. Jason mentions how this must be the extraction squad that Hedge mentioned to him. The chariot lands. A boy and a girl with blonde hair and an orange t-shirt carrying a dagger leaps out. The girl asks where Hedge is, and Jason says he was taken by the Venditti. The girl mentions how that's a Roman term, but quickly dismisses it. The girl then asks what happened, and Jason does his best to explain. The story really upsets the girl, and Butch, the boy from the chariot, tells her to calm down. The girl is looking for someone, and someone else told her that he would be here. But alas, it's just Piper, Jason, and Leo. Butch tells the girl that they need to leave before the monsters come back and get these 3 to camp. The girl finally relents and introduces herself as Annabeth Chase. Annabeth then storms away to the chariot. Piper asks what her problem is, and Butch says to cut her some slack. She's looking for one of their campers who went missing 3 days ago. Her boyfriend, Percy Jackson. Everyone then hops in the chariot and flies away. During the ride, Piper can't help thinking what a crazy morning she's had, just as her nightmares have been describing. Nightmares she hasn't told anyone about yet. Piper thinks about how she spent all semester trying to get Jason to ask her out, and just when it happened, he forgets. Now she can't even turn to him for help. Leo asks where they're going, and Annabeth says Camp Half-Blood. Piper is a little offended by this, thinking it's a dig at her for being half Cherokee, but Jason quickly explains that she means demigods, half mortal, half god. Annabeth mentions how Jason seems to know a lot about the subject, but he is indeed correct. Annabeth is a daughter of Athena, and Butch is the son of the rainbow goddess Iris. The chariot wheel then catches fire, and Butch does his best to get the chariot under control, but they end up crash landing in the canoe lake at Camp Half-Blood. Underwater, Piper sees an image of a woman in the murky bottom, a woman with yellow glowing eyes. But before she can really make it out, they surface, and a bunch of other campers come over with bronze leaf blowers that instantly dry them. Will Solace then comes up to Annabeth and says that when he let Annabeth borrow the chariot, he didn't mean destroy it. Annabeth profusely apologizes, and Will says it's okay and asks if she found Percy, to which Annabeth very sadly says they did not. In fact, everyone else around them also seems very upset by this fact. Piper thinks that this Percy guy must be pretty important. Oh, Piper, if you only knew. Will asks if these are the new demigods, and Annabeth says yes. They are then interrupted by the head of the Aphrodite cabin, Drew, and her and Piper immediately butt heads. Annabeth diffuses the situation and assigns guides to Leo, Piper, and Jason, and hope that they will be claimed by dinner. Piper asks what claimed means, and before anyone can answer, everyone gasps. Piper turns, and a glowing red hammer is floating above Leo's head. Annabeth says that is a claiming. Leo has been claimed by the god of fire and forges, Festus. Jason asks if that's the symbol of Vulcan, and Annabeth once again stares weirdly at Jason. Vulcan is the Roman name of Hephaestus, but here at Camp Half-Blood they typically use Greek terms. Annabeth asks Will to take Leo to Cabin 9 to introduce him to his cabin mates. Annabeth then asks to see Jason's arm. When Jason rolls up his sleeve, he has a tattoo of a dozen straight lines with an eagle and the letters SPQR. Annabeth asks where he got this, but Jason of course can't remember. But he can remember that the tattoo was burned into his arm. Piper also finds it weird that she never noticed it before. Annabeth says that Jason needs to talk to Chiron, so Annabeth asks Drew to take him. Drew enthusiastically agrees and smirks at Piper. Annabeth then volunteers to give Piper a tour. When Annabeth is giving Piper the tour, Piper can tell that Annabeth's heart really isn't in it. Piper overall is pretty accepting of the fact that her mother is a Greek goddess. This shocks Annabeth as most don't take it as well, but Piper says it kinda just makes a lot of sense why there's never been any photos of her mom. It also makes her nightmares make more sense as well. The nightmare saying that soon someone will find you, demigod, and if Piper doesn't follow instructions, her father will suffer. Annabeth says that Piper is safe and understood here. Piper has a hard time believing this, but Annabeth says most demigods have it the same as her. Kicked out of school, ADHD, and constantly in trouble. This does make Piper feel better. Piper then explains how she doesn't mean to steal stuff. Just when she asks for things, people happen to just give it to her. Annabeth is intrigued by this and says it will probably make a lot more sense when Piper is claimed. Annabeth explains to Piper more about Percy, how he went missing 3 days ago. Piper thinks this was the same time she started having nightmares. Piper asks when Annabeth and Percy started dating, and Annabeth says since August. And Piper mentions that's how long she's known Jason, but they only started dating recently. Annabeth then sits Piper down gently and starts to explain to her how something is amiss. Piper doesn't actually know Jason, it's all just a trick of the mist. The magical aura that hides the Greek gods' world from the mortals. Piper refuses to believe this, but when she can't answer simple questions, like what's Jason's last name, she becomes distraught. Annabeth tries to console Piper and tells her that maybe her and Jason can have something real now, moving forward. Annabeth then takes Piper to the weapons shed, and Piper picks out a dagger that was once the dagger of Helen of Troy. The dagger is called Catoptris, and it has the power to show you visions of the future. Piper then asks if she can call her dad, as she's been worried about him ever since the nightmare started. Annabeth then explains that demigods aren't supposed to use technology as it attracts monsters, but Annabeth does indeed have a cell phone against the rules and lets Piper use it. Piper's dad doesn't pick up, but Piper's dad's assistant, Jane, who gives Piper a really hard time and doesn't answer any of her questions and then hangs up the phone, and Piper feels no better after the phone call. Annabeth mentions that Piper's last name, McLean, seems familiar, and asks what her dad does. But Piper, for some reason, dodges the question. Annabeth then continues the tour. Eventually, they end up at the cabins, and Piper notices a lot of construction. Annabeth says that they started out with 12 cabins for the 12 Olympians, but have since started building other cabins for the minor gods. Piper notices how some cabins are empty, and Annabeth mentions how Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus made a pact not to have any more kids, with a few exceptions, Nico, Percy, and Thalia, all of which are currently not here, and Hera, who is the goddess of marriage and would never have kids with anyone but Zeus. Piper notices that when Annabeth talks about Hera, there's just a tad bit of strain in her voice. Annabeth says that they don't have good history, and how when Percy disappeared, Hera appeared to Annabeth telling her to go to the Grand Canyon to find Percy. But as we all know, Percy was not there. Piper notices that it looks like someone has been inside Hera's cabin. So much to Annabeth's dismay, they go to check it out. Inside, they find Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Annabeth introduces Rachel as the Camp Oracle. Rachel hugs Annabeth and tells her that she came as soon as she heard about Percy's disappearance. Annabeth asks why Rachel is in Hera's cabin, and Rachel says she had a hunch that Hera may be connected to Percy's disappearance and the god's silence. Piper asks Rachel what she means by the god's silence, and Annabeth explains that the gods usually keep a distance, but ever since the end of the summer, the gods have gone completely silent. Even the entrance to Mount Olympus has been completely sealed shut. And Mr. D, aka Dionysus, who is the camp director and god of wine, has even disappeared from camp. The only message they've heard in months is the dream Hera sent to Annabeth. Something is definitely not right. Then Rachel grabs Piper, and Rachel's body goes stiff, and she says in a voice that isn't Rachel's and isn't the oracle's, "Free me, Piper McLean, or the earth shall swallow us." Piper then blacks out. Meanwhile, we catch up with what Leo has been up to, who is absolutely having the time of his life. Greek battleships, dangerous monsters, sign Leo up. Will explains to Leo more about Festus, how he's the god of fire and forges. And Leo thinks to himself that after what happened to his mom, his dad being the god of fire must be some kind of sick joke. Will also mentions how there might be a slight curse on Cabin 9. After Charles Beckendorf, the last head counselor of the Hephaestus cabin, died last summer, things have not been going well for Cabin 9. The current head counselor is currently incapacitated, so Will takes Leo to meet him. On the way there, Leo sees an old woman in a black shawl off to the edge of the woods. When Leo looks closer, he realizes it's his old babysitter, Tia Kaida, and he is not happy to see her, considering that she tried to kill him multiple times when Leo was a toddler. When Leo asks Will what she's doing here, Will stares at Leo like he's crazy. When Leo looks back, she's gone. They then head to Cabin 9, where they meet the new head counselor, Jake Manson, and he's in a full body cast. Leo asks where all the other campers are, and Jake says they are currently at the forges dealing with a problem. Jake then gives Leo the best bunk in the cabin, a bunk equipped with a secret underground room. Leo is ecstatic, and Jake says it once belonged to Charlie Beckendorf. Leo asks how he died, and Will explains all about the Titan War, and is pretty surprised that Leo didn't see anything about the natural disasters on the news. But Leo says he really didn't have time to watch TV as he was too busy running around from foster home to foster home. Will then takes Leo to the forges. On the way, Will explains how after the war, things haven't been going well for Cabin 9. Chariots exploding, experiments malfunctioning, and of course, the big problem, which Will doesn't explain further. They then head to the forge where Leo is introduced to the rest of his cabin mates, and they're pretty unenthusiastic. Nissa, a girl in cargo pants, volunteers to show Leo around the forges. Nissa then explains their big problem. A bronze dragon is on the loose. The Hephaestus cabin built it many years ago, and Beckendorf recently found it and rebuilt it, but he was the only one who could control it. And with Beckendorf now dead, the dragon is rampaging, setting the woods on fire and eating satyrs. Cabin 9 wants to capture and destroy the dragon, but this outrages Leo. Why would you destroy something so freaking cool? But Nissa says they don't have any other choice, that as when they get too close, the dragon breathes fire. This confuses Leo, as being children of Hephaestus, wouldn't that mean that they're fireproof? But Nissa says that's a Cyclops ability, not a demigod one. But it is possible for a child of Hephaestus to be fireproof, but it's very rare, and usually something bad happens when they show up. At this, Leo goes very quiet. Leo then thinks to himself, if he can capture and tame the dragon, something that only Beckendorf could do, maybe Leo will finally be accepted somewhere. Then the dinner bell rings. Leo tells everyone that he'll catch up. When everyone is gone, Leo looks at his hands and decides it's time for Plan C, a plan he swore he would never use again. Leo's hands then erupt into fire. Leo has the very rare ability of children of Hephaestus, the power over fire. The power that usually means something bad is going to happen. While all this is happening, we find out what Jason has been up to. Drew takes him to the big house, and Jason keeps feeling like he's on enemy territory, like he shouldn't be here. Drew is also very flirtatious with Jason, and despite Jason having no memories, he can't help but feel like this is a betrayal to Piper, who he can't stop thinking about. How brave she was, and how pretty she is. Chiron, who is a centaur, then rounds the corner. When he sees Jason, the first thing he says is, "You should be dead." Chiron then invites Jason inside and tells Drew to go back to her cabin, which she is not happy about. Jason then asks what Chiron meant by he should be dead. Chiron asks Jason if he understands what those marks on his arm and the color of his shirt mean. His shirt, which is purple. Jason doesn't. Chiron asks if he knows where he is. Jason doesn't, but he does have an understanding of this world and the gods. Chiron then starts talking to Jason in Latin, and Jason responds perfectly, something that most demigods can't do. Chiron suspects that Jason has already been claimed and has had training, and his presence here could be a disaster. Chiron had hoped that after the war they could have peace, but it seems Chiron was very wrong. Jason once again asks what Chiron meant by Jason should be dead, and Chiron reluctantly says he cannot say, as he made an oath on the river Styx, an oath that is also being broken by Jason just being here, which should not be possible unless someone very powerful sent Jason. Before Jason can ask more questions, Chiron freezes. In fact, the whole world freezes except for Jason. Black mist then starts spilling out of the leopard head Seymour on the wall. The mist takes the form of a woman, telling Jason that he needs to rescue her. The woman claims to own Jason. Jason was a gift to her to placate her anger against Jason's father. Jason says he doesn't belong to anyone, but the woman says that Jason doesn't have a choice. If he wants his memories back, which she took, Jason is gonna have to come rescue her. The mist then disappears and Chiron is unfrozen. When Jason explains, Chiron finally understands. But they are interrupted by Annabeth and Rachel carrying in an unconscious Piper. Jason is super worried about Piper as she's barely breathing, and Annabeth explains what happened. That a woman spoke through Rachel. Jason asks if she asked to be rescued, and Annabeth asks Jason how he knew that. And Jason explains the woman in the mist, how she claimed to be his patron goddess, that Jason was a gift to her. Annabeth has never heard of this before and asks if maybe this goddess is the same person that Dylan was talking about at the Grand Canyon. Jason doesn't think so. Jason does not think she's an enemy, as she's asking for their help. In fact, Jason thinks this woman is Juno, aka Hera, queen of the gods. Annabeth asks who could have captured a goddess, a titan maybe, and Chiron thinks it's something much worse than a titan. Hera had said she'd been trapped for a month, the same amount of times the gods have been silent. Jason thinks there must be more to this. Why would Hera use her power to wipe his memory? And how is Piper involved? Annabeth thinks that Hera must also have something to do with Percy's disappearance. Perhaps if Jason's memory was wiped, so was Percy's. Annabeth then decides they need to learn more, so Annabeth takes Jason to cabin 15, the Hypnos cabin, who may be able to help Jason with his memory loss. Once there, they meet the head counselor Clovis, and Clovis deduces that Jason's memories have indeed been stolen, something only a god or goddess could do. Jason agrees. Juno has stolen his memories. But Annabeth corrects him, saying it's Hera, not Juno. Juno is the Roman term. Annabeth then explains to Clovis how Jason seems to prefer Roman terms. But Clovis says they're not just terms. They're not interchangeable. While Hera and Juno may technically be the same goddess, their personalities are very different. Romans are more disciplined and warlike. This is news to Annabeth, who thought the names were interchangeable. So Clovis says that if Jason's memories were stolen by this particular goddess, he sure as heck hopes that it's Hera and not Juno, because Juno is way more scary. At this, Annabeth starts to think that Jason is in even more trouble than she originally thought. We then find out what Piper's been dreaming about while unconscious. The last time that she saw her dad. It was the perfect day. They went surfing out in California where her dad lives. No paparazzi, no crazy fangirls asking her dad for his autograph, and her dad even packed her favorite lunch, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, as it made her feel like a normal kid. Piper tries to ask questions about her mom, but Piper's dad says he really doesn't know more than what he's told her. She just disappeared one day. The two are then interrupted by her dad's assistant Jane coming over with a phone call. The phone call reveals that Piper has been expelled for stealing another car. Piper's dad is extremely upset about this, as he said that Piper said she would try. And Piper says she did try. Piper's dad says that if she wanted a car, he would have just bought her one. At this, Piper explodes. She doesn't want a car, she just wants her dad's attention. The dream then shifts to a dark hillside, and a voice tells Piper that this is her second warning. Piper then sees her dad, beat and tied up, guarded by a giant named Enceladus. Enceladus tells Piper to do as she's told and to go on the quest, and maybe her and her dad can both live. Piper then wakes up, and Rachel catches Piper up on everything that's happened and tells her that Jason was super worried about them, and in fact their visions connect them. This does not make Piper feel better, because if she's to save her dad, she's gonna need to betray Jason and everyone here at camp. Rachel then tells Piper that she slept through dinner and it's time to head to the campfire, where Piper will most likely be claimed. Piper hopes she's a daughter of Athena. At the campfire, Piper finds Jason and Leo. Chiron then makes some announcements that Capture the Flag is postponed until the dragon is dealt with, and that Percy is still missing. Annabeth mentions how they have teams everywhere looking for him, Grover, Tyson, and so forth. Drew then stands up and speaks out, asking if this is the great prophecy starting, and Rachel says that it is. Rachel then recites the prophecy of 7, but before she can finish it, Jason finishes it for her in Latin. Jason doesn't know how he knows it, but he knows he's heard those lines before. The first part of the prophecy is starting. Hera is captured and has asked Jason personally to go rescue her, and it must be done by the winter solstice in 4 days. Chiron says Jason should lead the quest, but someone shouts he hasn't even been claimed. But Chiron says Jason has, a long time ago, and Jason gives a demonstration by taking out his gold coin and flipping it. But this time, it comes up tails, so instead of a sword, it's a spear. Jason points the spear to the sky and summons lightning. Jason states that he is a son of Jupiter, or Zeus, he guesses. Jason then goes to Rachel to receive a prophecy for this specific quest. Child of lightning, beware the earth. The giant's revenge, the 7 shall birth. The forge and the dove shall break the cage, and death unleash through Hera's rage. This prophecy scares everyone. Why break Hera out if it's gonna unleash her rage? But Jason says he doesn't have a choice. He needs his memory back. And besides, she is the queen of the gods. They have to help her as much as Annabeth doesn't want to. Also, what does beware the earth mean? And what giant's revenge? At this, Annabeth and Chiron exchange a look of pure terror, but don't say anything more. Then they discuss the other issue, who shall accompany Jason. Many think Annabeth should go, but Annabeth refuses to help Hera. Jason says it's his quest, so he gets to choose. The forge and the dove shall break the cage. The forge is clearly a child of Festus. Nyssa points out that Jason will need to travel by air, as the prophecy said beware the earth, but currently their chariot is broken. Leo then volunteers and says he has a plan, and if he can get transportation, Jason agrees and says they started this together, they may as well finish it. That leaves one more, the dove. Drew volunteers, as the dove is the symbol of Aphrodite, but Piper protests and gets into an argument with Drew. Piper had a vision, not Drew. Drew says Piper was in the right place at the right time. Annabeth reluctantly agrees with Drew. The prophecy calls for a child of Aphrodite, but then everyone gasps. Piper is now in a flowing gown with perfect hair and makeup. Piper doesn't understand, but Chiron does. Piper has just been claimed as a daughter of Aphrodite. Piper can now go on the quest. As happy as Leo is for Piper, he doesn't stick around after Piper gets claimed. He has to go find transportation in the form of a bronze dragon. As Leo is looking, he figures something out after listening to Jason describe Hera. She resembles Tia Kaida, his old babysitter, meaning Leo's babysitter who tried to kill him is the Queen of the Gods. Yeah, that scrambled Leo's brain just a bit. Leo's head is spinning and he can't help but think about all the things that's led up to his mother's death. Leo then thinks about his past. He first thinks about the first time Tia Kaida tried to kill him. Leo was about 2 and Tia Kaida was watching him while Leo's mom was working at her machine shop. Tia Kaida put him down for a nap. Leo didn't notice anything weird, but when his mother came home, she freaked out. Turns out Tia Kaida put Leo down for a nap in a fire pit. Strangely enough, she wasn't arrested and kept coming back, giving Leo knives and rattlesnakes to play with. The last time Leo saw her, he was 5, and had Leo draw a picture of a boat. But when Leo was done, the wind took it away, and Leo started crying, but Tia Kaida told Leo to be patient. It wasn't time yet, and soon his quest would come. Leo then thinks about his mom and wonders if she knew who Tia Kaida was. Leo fondly remembers his mom, how she worked hard to support them, how she always smelled of machine oil, and how they used to communicate with Morse code. Leo also remembers an important conversation he had with his mom, where she told Leo that fire is a tool, but it's also very dangerous, and to not create any until he met his father. Leo and his mom had a good life until Leo was 8. One night, Leo was staying late with his mother at the machine shop. When they left, Leo's mom realized she didn't have her keys, so she went back inside, telling Leo to wait for her. However, when she went inside, the doors sealed shut. Leo called for his mom, but she didn't answer. Instead, an image of a sleeping lady answers, telling Leo that she must destroy him, as in the future, Leo will prevent her kids from waking her. However, due to the fate, she cannot destroy him yet, so instead she'll hurt him in a different way, break his spirit. She'll kill his mother. Leo tries to fight this woman with his fire but loses control and passes out. Leo wakes up in an ambulance. The shop burnt down and his mother didn't make it out. Leo didn't listen to his mother about fire and now she's dead and it's all his fault. Or well, he thinks it is. Everyone in Leo's family thought he was a devil, so Leo bounced around from foster home to foster home. Ever since that day, Leo promised never to make fire again, but he may need to break that promise soon. Tia Kaida, or should I say Hera, once again appears to Leo and tells him that his mother's death wasn't his fault and he will soon realize his destiny, and then disappears. All Leo really wants to do is punch the lady who actually killed his mom in the face, and figures this quest may be a good chance to do that. But for right now, he has to find a dragon. Leo heads into the woods and lights a fire to see where he's going. Leo quickly finds the dragon and is seriously impressed by the mechanical dragon. However, unfortunately, the dragon doesn't have wings. When the dragon goes to burn Leo to a crisp, Leo is unharmed, and the dragon is intrigued. Leo is able to connect with the dragon and starts working on the control panel. Leo checks out the wiring and realizes the dragon has a corroded control disc. Leo cleans the disc and the dragon seems to be functioning. Leo decides to name the dragon Festus, but he still has one problem. The dragon doesn't have wings. At this, Festus sprints away and looks back, almost as if saying, "Follow me, Leo." So Leo does. Soon they come upon a door in the cliffs. When Leo places his hand on the door, his hand smolders and the doors open. Festus rushes inside, and inside is a giant workshop, the biggest Leo has ever seen. A banner hangs from the ceiling, saying Bunker 9. Leo wonders if this place belongs to Cabin 9, but then he finds a newspaper with the date 1864 and realizes that this place has been abandoned for a very long time. Leo then finds something that sends chills through his bones, a blueprint of a ship, the same ship that Hera had him draw in crayon when he was 5. Before he can think on that, Festus gets his attention. Hanging from the ceiling are bronze dragon wings. Leo has work to do. That night, Jason dreams of wolves. Jason recognizes the place, and the wolf tells him, of course, this is where your journey started, and now you must make your way back. Jason recognizes the wolf, Her name is Lupa. Jason asks Lupa for guidance, and Lupa reveals that this is the house where Hera is being held by their enemy. And she is being guarded by the king of giants, Porphyrion. However, Porphyrion has not awoken yet, so they need to hurry before he does. Lupa tells Jason not to fail, and then Jason wakes to the sound of thunder. Jason then wakes up in cabin 1 and remembers that it always thunders in cabin 1. He looks up at the giant statue of Zeus and can't help but think it's a little creepy that his eyes follow you no matter where you go. He also kinda looks like a hippie. Jason then dresses in fresh clothes and can't help but think about how he made a fool of himself in front of Piper last night. After her transformation, he blurted out, "Piper, you're a knockout," even though he thought she was already pretty. Even through his embarrassment, Jason is glad that Piper will be coming on the quest with him. Jason then notices someone else's belongings in the corner. He goes to check it out and finds a photo of Annabeth, a boy, and a girl with black spiky hair. Annabeth, who has entered the cabin unbeknownst to Jason, says that's Thalia, another child of Zeus. Jason mentions his dream and explains it to Annabeth. Annabeth has never heard of Lupa, but the place he described sounds like it could be in California. Finally, Jason mentions how Lupa said their enemy is a her, and Annabeth wonders if it's Hera. But as much as Annabeth doesn't like Hera, she really doesn't think so. Jason thinks Annabeth may know who it is, but Annabeth is too scared to tell him. Annabeth hopes she's wrong, and for right now, they need to focus on their quest at hand. Jason doesn't know where to start, so Annabeth says to find the wind monster who attacked him, and the best way to do that is to find a wind god. Annabeth tells him the god Jason should look for is Boreads, the northern wind, and he's in Quebec, Canada. Jason then asks more questions about Thalia and what happened to her. When Annabeth mentions that Thalia's name is Grace, Jason remembers something, but makes Annabeth swear not to tell anyone. Jason's last name is Grace, and he's 100% sure that Thalia is his sister. Meanwhile, Piper has woken up, and the first thing she does is look in a mirror, and much to her horror, she's still beautiful. No matter what she does, chop her hair, wash the makeup off, it just keeps coming back perfect. Drew then comes over and tells Piper that even though Aphrodite claimed Piper, Piper still doesn't belong here. Everyone in the cabin agrees, but not because they actually agree, but because they're scared of Drew. Drew then orders everyone to clean the cabin, and Piper can't understand why everyone lets Drew bully them like that. Piper then meets her sibling Mitchell and Lacey, who are actually pretty nice to her when Drew's not around. Mitchell reveals that Drew can charm speak, a rare ability of children of Aphrodite. You are essentially brainwashed into doing whatever the user says, so if Drew told you to jump off a cliff, you'd jump off a cliff. Drew then comes back and keeps going on and on about how ugly and useless Piper is, and finally Piper has had enough. When Drew asks who Piper's father is, Piper shares something she never does. Her father is Tristan McLean, the famous, seriously hot actor. The rest of the cabin finds this amazing, but Drew just claims that Piper is lying, and the rest of the cabin reluctantly has to believe Drew. Piper then realizes something. Why people keep giving her things when she asks. Piper has charm speak. Piper then uses her own charm speak to try and get the cabin to think for themselves. There has to be more to Aphrodite than this. Drew reports back that once again Piper doesn't belong here. Piper leaves with tears in her eyes and swears to never come back to this cabin. When Piper gets outside, she sees something in the sky, and soon Leo lands on a bronze dragon. Leo manages to convince everyone not to shoot him. Nyssa is shocked that the dragon now has wings, and Leo explains that he found them and reattached them, while also fixing the dragon, who he introduces as Festus. Leo, however, leaves out details of Bunker 9. Leo tells Jason that he has found them a ride, so now Leo can go on the quest. Leo, Piper, and Jason then set off on Festus to find the god of the north wind and some storm spirits. On the ride, Leo is ecstatic that his plan worked. Leo, on top of Festus, also took a magical tool belt from Bunker 9 that can produce anything within reason. Jason explains about what he and Annabeth talked about, and Jason's dream of the wolf. Piper then starts to explain about the giants of Greek mythology, and when Jason asks how she knows so much, Piper says her father had a part in the movie Sparta, so she did a lot of research into Greek mythology. Everyone discusses what they've learned in the past few days, Hera disguising herself as Leo's babysitter, Hera being kidnapped, the giants guarding her, the weird woman in the earth who appears to be sleeping. They just don't know how she connects to everything else. Leo then decides to get some sleep as he's been up all night, but all too soon Piper is waking him as they've arrived in Quebec. They are soon approached by two figures who they think are wind spirits but realize are too solid to be wind spirits. The two figures tell them that they are in restricted airspace and then introduce themselves as Zethys and Calus, the sons of Boreas, known as the Boreads. The Boreads are about to blast our heroes out of the sky, but Piper uses her charm speak and convinces the Boreads to let them land. The Boreads then take our heroes to what appears to be a hotel. When they land, Leo notices how cold it is, and Jason says that something doesn't feel right. The Boreads insist that Leo deactivate Festus as his fire is not welcome here, but instead of deactivating Festus, Leo presses a button and Festus compacts into a suitcase. But this doesn't appease the Boreads. They still don't like Leo as he smells of fire. And the Boreads clearly do not like the stuff. The Boreads then try to kill Leo, but Jason diffuses the situation by introducing himself as the son of Zeus. A girl then enters the room and announces that her father will want to meet Jason. When Leo sees her, Leo is instantly in love as she's drop-dead gorgeous. The girl then gestures for them to follow her, but she says Leo is not allowed in the presence of her father as fire and ice do not mix. Jason protests, but Leo says it's okay and not to cause any more trouble. Leo will hang back while Jason and Piper go talk to Boreas. On the way up, Jason thinks of Thalia and how they were separated. Does Thalia even know about him? Piper can tell that Jason is worried and tries to confront him, and Jason can't help thinking that he wishes their relationship was actually real. They then get to the throne room and the daughter introduces herself as Chione, goddess of snow. When they meet Boreas, he speaks in French, and miraculously Piper finds out that she can speak fluent French, as French is the language of love and she is a daughter of the love goddess. Boreas reveals something potentially problematic. Boreas has orders to kill our heroes from Aeolus, master of the winds. Aeolus is in charge of all the winds and all the wind monsters, and last summer when the gods sealed away Typhon, a lot of wind monsters were released, making Aeolus's job a lot harder. And since he can't punish the gods, he's gonna punish the next best thing, their children, the Demi Gods. Jason summons lightning and commands that Boreas listen to them first. Boreas allows them to speak, but Jason wasn't expecting him to actually listen, so Jason freezes, not knowing what to say. So Piper saves the day and explains how they're on a quest to rescue Hera, who has been captured. And in order to find out where Hera is, they first need to find some wind monsters that attack them at the Grand Canyon. Boreas reveals that he knows of these wind spirits and the prisoner they keep. Jason and Piper are shocked to learn Coach Hedge is alive. Boreas tells them it's useless. They are better off dead than to go against the mistress controlling the wind spirits. Boreas then notices the tattoo on Jason's arm, and Boreas shifts his form to Aquilon, the Roman god of the North Wind. Aquilon can see Jason recognizes him better in this form, despite Jason claiming he is from Camp Half-Blood. At this, Aquilon laughs. Aquilon then realizes Hera is playing a very risky game. Aquilon then decides to let them go, as if Hera's plan doesn't work, all demigods will destroy each other anyway. Aquilon tells them they will find the wind spirits in Chicago, and if they capture the spirits will lead them to Aeolus, who can help them locate Hera. Piper and Jason then meet back up with Leo and are escorted out of the hotel, but not before Jason insults Chione, and she'll say he'll regret that. Chione isn't too happy that her father let these demigods win. She kinda wanted Jason as a frozen statue for herself. But Jason has other things on his mind, what the North Wind gods said about demigods destroying each other, and why Jason being sent to Camp Half-Blood amused him so much. Piper also can't stop thinking about how Boreas changed forms to Aquilon, and thinks Jason is some sort of Roman. Which would be bad, because clearly Greeks and Romans do not get along, and Piper is still holding out hope that she can actually get together with Jason. The three then hop on Festus and continue the journey. Piper then decides to close her eyes and hopefully get some sleep. Piper dreams she's on a hillside and sees the giant keeping her father, Enceladus. He is taunting her, claiming that her father's mind can't take much more, and the only way to save him is to betray her friends and doom Hera. Why should Piper want to help Hera anyway? Hera toyed with Piper's mind and emotions. Enceladus then reveals his location and tells Piper to lead her friends here instead of the true destination. And if Piper does this, he will let her and her father go. Piper refuses, saying that she'll find a way to save her father and not betray her friends. Piper then wakes up, plummeting through the air in a freefall. Jason manages to catch her and they catch Leo, but Leo won't leave Festus. Jason is unable to hold the weight of them plus the dragon, and they end up crashing through the roof of a warehouse. Piper breaks her ankle, but thankfully that's the worst of it. Leo pulls out some supplies from his tool belt and wraps Piper's ankle. Piper also eats some ambrosia, and already her ankle feels way better. Piper asks what happened to Festus, and Leo doesn't know. They just seem to hit an invisible wall and Festus plummeted. Leo decides to go look for Festus and leaves Jason and Piper inside to wait for him, as Piper's ankle still isn't fully healed. Piper's about to confess everything about her dad when they hear something. Piper tells Jason to check it out as Leo may need help. Jason is reluctant but eventually goes. Piper hears another boom and eats more ambrosia, hoping she won't burn up. She gets very warm but doesn't burst into flames, and with the pain in her ankle gone, goes to check on Jason. She calls out to him and Jason replies that he's fine. But when Piper finds him, it's not Jason, it's a Cyclops, impersonating him, and then Piper is captured. Meanwhile, Leo, unaware of his friends in danger, finds Festus outside, who crash landed on a porta potty. Leo bravely makes his way through the sludge and climbs on Festus. When he opens the dragon's head, he finds that the control disc has frozen over. Leo furiously sets to work, refusing to be the reason they fail. Leo also needs to prove his worth, no matter what everyone has told him his entire life. Then Leo sees a face in the potty sludge. The face of a sleeping woman, the woman that killed his mom. The woman tells him she is his mother, in fact, the first mother, and Leo should walk away now. Leo responds by throwing a hammer at her and telling her to go away. Leo then hears a crash and rushes back to the warehouse to help his friends. Once inside, Leo sneaks around and finds Piper and Jason dangling above a pot. The Cyclops are preparing their dinner. There's 3 Cyclops, and one is a woman known as Gasket, and it seems Piper's charm speak isn't working on her. Leo springs into action and reprograms all the machines in the warehouse. Soon they start tackling the Cyclops. Tractors crashing, mechanical arms swinging into them, and soon the 2 male Cyclops are turned into dust. But Gasket is proving to be more of a challenge. Leo sees an opening and taunts Gasket, telling her that he will destroy her with fire. Gasket laughs at this and picks up a giant bucket of kerosene and throws it at Leo, trapping him in a fiery tornado. But of course, Leo is perfectly fine, and Gasket is now exactly where Leo won. He shoots a fireball at the ceiling. Gasket laughs at this, thinking that Leo missed, but Leo shot at an engine block hanging from the ceiling, and it falls and crushes Gasket into dust. Leo then rescues Piper and an unconscious Jason, and Leo thinks that his friends will think he's a menace, but Piper tells Leo that he is seriously cool and awesome. They then realize the giants are starting to reform, something that should be impossible, but for some reason the monsters are not staying in Tartarus for very long. So Leo and Piper carry Jason and get the heck out of there. As Jason is unconscious, he has a dream. He is talking to a lady in a cage. Jason realizes it's Hera in her prison. Hera tells Jason that they await much worse trials and the earth is stirring against them. Jason asks how a goddess could be captured, but Hera says there are some things more powerful than the gods. Hera then tells Jason that Hera could not sit idle while Zeus did nothing. Zeus closed Olympus and forbade the gods from contacting anyone, as Zeus believed that their enemies were starting to stir since the gods were claiming their kids and had so much contact with the mortal world. But Hera knew this was not the case, so she investigated, but it was a trap. The earth was stirring too fast, and Hera was imprisoned by the giants. The one who the giants serve, their real enemy, cannot be defeated, but only kept asleep. Hera tells Jason that if they plan to win, their side cannot stay divided. So Jason was a peace offering to end years of hatred. an exchange, if you will. Hera warns Jason to be careful in Chicago and that Thalia will help him. Jason then wakes up and Leo and Piper explain everything but say that Jason took a nasty hit to the head. Piper then explains how incredible Leo was and how he can summon fire, and Jason agrees that this is super cool. Jason then tells them about his dream and how Hera mentioned something about an exchange, and just maybe there's others out there like Jason, Roman demigods. They then arrive in Chicago and Jason sees a wind spirit, a horse, so they decide to follow it. They follow the wind spirit to a park where there's hundreds of wind spirits circling a fountain. They soon all then fly down the drain. So Leo has Festus set them down on the ground and tells Festus to fly around, and when he hears Leo whistle to come find them. So our three heroes then head into the sewer. And Jason can't help but notice that as far as sewers go, it's actually pretty nice. They then follow the trail of the wind spirits. They continue walking, but Jason soon realizes that Piper is limping. Her ankle's still not fully healed. So Jason decides that they should rest for a bit, and Leo pulls out some cooking ingredients from his tool belt and gets to work on cooking them dinner. Piper and Jason talk, and Jason apologizes for showing up in her life and messing with her mind. Piper tells Jason it's not his fault and it's okay. Jason then realizes how cool Piper can be. Jason then asks Piper what she wanted to tell him about her father back in the warehouse, but Piper says she can't talk about it. Leo then interrupts them with dinner. Jason asks Leo why he kept his fire powers a secret, and Leo confesses what Nyssa said about a Festus child showing up with fire powers usually means something bad is happening. And Jason says maybe that's when they show up, because that's when they're needed. This makes Leo feel a little better, but not completely, and Jason asks if it's about his mom. Leo says his powers killed her, but Jason says it was not Leo's fault. The Dirt Lady killed Leo's mom, not him. They then talk about who the potential other 4 half-bloods of the 7 could potentially be, and they joke that maybe they're on a quest right now, and an even nicer sewer. They then decide to get some rest for the night. Soon everyone wakes up and they continue down the sewer until they find an elevator entrance for a department store. But when they look at the sign, they realize it's not a normal department store. This one sells poisons and has kennels. But with nowhere else to go, they take the elevator to the top floor. When they exit, they agree this is no ordinary store. In fact, the inside looks like a kaleidoscope. They get to a railing, and when they look down, they see a bunch of bird cages. Inside one is the wind spirits they're looking for, and inside the other is Coach Hedge. They all agree they need to get down there and rescue him, but before they can, they are interrupted by a lady who asks if they need help. Jason asks if they can have their friend back and the wind spirits, and the woman says of course, but first asks for their names. Piper tries to stop Jason, but Jason introduces all of them. And when Jason says his name, a look of anger comes across the woman's face, and she says she'll have to make a special deal for him. She then motions for our heroes to follow her. Jason and Leo follow with no concerns, but Piper can't help but feel uneasy. The woman takes them to the potion section, including potions that could cure anything, to potions that could kill you instantly. Piper keeps telling Jason and Leo that they have a job to do. Get the storm spirits and rescue Coach Hedge. But Leo and Jason are just barely listening to her. The two of them seem to be in some sort of trance, and not even Piper's charm speak can snap them out of it. Piper then notices a potion that cures memory. Piper wants it for Jason and asks how much. The woman then asks if Piper would pay any price for it, and Piper says no, not any price, but a fair price. The woman is impressed that Piper can resist her. The woman insists that they should continue shopping as they will need supplies for when they get to the Bay Area. This shocks Piper as the Bay Area is where she's supposed to betray her friends, and it seems this woman knows about it. Piper then demands to know who she is, and the woman tells her a story about how she helped the original Jason steal from her father, but then the original Jason betrayed her. Piper then puts 2 and 2 together and says that you should be dead. The woman says that thanks to her patron, she is once again alive. But before Piper can tell the others who this woman is, the woman leads Jason and Leo into a new section. The section with Coach Hedge. Piper tries to snap Jason out of his trance, but to no avail. So Piper confronts the woman, who she calls Medea, an evil witch from Greek mythology who helped the original Jason steal the Golden Fleece. Medea reveals that in order to come back to life, she made a deal with her patron. All Medea had to do was send some storm spirits to capture the three, but even after they failed, the heroes still came to her anyway. Turns out Medea was also behind Piper's father being kidnapped by giants. Piper realizes it's not only the monsters that are escaping the underworld, but people too. Medea then pits Leo and Jason against each other and they start to fight, but Piper channels all her power into her charm speak and snaps Jason and Leo out of their trance. The two boys then realize that Medea is working for the sleeping woman, her patron as she puts it, and therefore helped in the murder of Leo's mom. This makes Leo especially angry. Medea then calls her dragons into attack. While Jason and Leo fights the dragons, Piper goes back for the memory potion. But Medea is there, so Piper breaks all the potion bottles instead, and the potions start consuming the department store. Leo then whistles for Festus, and Festus swoops down to take our heroes to safety. As they escape, they manage to grab the cage that Coach Hedge is in, and the cage with the storm spirits. Medea screams that they need her, but our heroes just continue to fly away. On Festus, our heroes decide where to go next, and Jason says the Bay Area, as he remembers Medea saying something about Piper's dad being lured into a trap there. But Piper does not want to think about that yet, as she will need to betray her friends there. So Piper says first they need to find the god of the wind, Aeolus, and return the storm spirits. Leo asks how they're going to find him, and Jason replies with, "You don't see it?" Jason can see a glowing streak of light in the air, kind of like a real-world GPS, so they decide to follow it, as Jason figures it will lead to Aeolus. As Festus follows the trail, Leo decides to get some sleep. Leo then has a very staticky dream that keeps getting interrupted with Wheel of Fortune, but he can make out a workshop and a very ugly face, the face of Hephaestus, his father. Leo asks, "Why show up now? It's not like you care." But Hephaestus replies that he does care very much. He's been keeping an eye on Leo his entire life, and he's very proud of his son. Hephaestus then reveals why Zeus has forbade the gods from talking to demigods and mortals. Zeus feels that the gods aren't being respected anymore, ever since Percy refused their gift of immortality. And Zeus believes that if they stop talking to the mortals and the demigods, the earth will go back to sleep. But Hephaestus knows this isn't true, and Leo has an important part to play in this quest. And as much as Hephaestus doesn't like his mother, Hera, Hera is right and she does need to be rescued. Hephaestus then tries to warn Leo of something, but before he can, Leo wakes up and they are once again free-falling through the sky. Leo pulls open the control panel and tries to reboot Festus. Leo tells Jason to take Piper and fly away, as Leo needs to lighten the amount of weight that Festus is carrying. Leo manages to semi-reboot Festus, but they are still falling too fast. Leo looks for a place to land. He sees a large backyard, but when they get closer, Leo is blinded by spotlights, and he hears the sound of metal being cut, and then Leo blacks out when he hits the ground. Jason and Piper wake Leo up, and when Leo comes to, he sees that Festus has been blasted to bits. Leo crawls over to the dragon's head that has just a bit of life left. Leo begs Festus not to go, but Festus just makes some clicking noises, and Leo promises Festus that he will, and the dragon fades away. Leo then calls to his dad and begs him for help. Leo has never asked for help before, but please, just help him now. Leo asks Hephaestus to take Festus back to Bunker 9 until Leo can fix him, and then the winds carry Festus away. Leo then asks where they are, and Piper says she saw a sign for Omaha, Nebraska. Leo then realizes that they are trapped in the backyard with some pretty high-tech home security, meaning this place is guarded by lasers. The only reason they made it in was because Festus took the hit for them. Leo then realizes that he led Festus to his own death, but Jason tells Leo that there's no way Leo could have known. Our heroes are unable to escape without being shot, so they decide to head into the giant mansion. Jason says he would have been dead 10 times over if it wasn't for Leo. On the way to the front door, Leo can spot several traps and he deactivates them. When they get to the front door, they notice that it's open, so they go inside. Inside, it's very dark, and Leo's firepower isn't working for some reason. They decide to make camp there for the night, as it's too cold outside. They bring in the cages with Hedge and the storm spirits, and Leo tries to open one cage containing Coach Hedge. Jason decides to get some sleep, but it's very short, as all too soon, Jason is awoken by screaming. Leo has managed to get Coach Hedge out of the cage, and is now unfrozen and screaming. They calm Hedge down and explain everything that has happened since he was captured. Once they are done explaining to Hedge what has happened, Hedge asks why everything is gold. And for the first time, with sunlight starting to streak in through the windows, they notice that the mansion is made out of gold, including several gold statues of people. They are then interrupted by a very pudgy man coming into the room in a pink bathrobe, with his son who he calls Lit, short for Latiris. Coach Hedge then charges them, screaming, "Die!" But Jason manages to hold Coach Hedge back, and Piper diffuses the situation and says this is all just a misunderstanding. The man in the bathrobe says they may as well all sit down and talk, much to Lit's dismay. The man then introduces him as King Midas, the king that has the golden touch. No matter what he touches, it turns to gold. Hedge says this is impossible, as Midas should be dead, and then tries to kill him again. Jason holds him back and says that for the time being, maybe Hedge should wait outside. Hedge is reluctant, but agrees. Piper asks Midas if a patron brought him back to life, but Midas says, what does it matter? He then asks them if they're interested in gold. Piper mentions that she thought that Midas's gold touch was reversed, after he accidentally turned his daughter into a gold statue and realized the errors of his greedy way. Midas says that's all myths, and he never realized anything. He still loves gold. In fact, his daughter is better off as a golden statue, but he can reverse any accidents with running water. Our heroes then realize that Midas is not a good person, and Jason regrets sending Coach outside. And in fact, Midas does have a patron, and he has sworn to do her work. He tried to explain this to the last group that came in and why he had to kill them, but they didn't listen and caused a muck and then left. Jason asks what group, and Midas says it was the Hunters of Artemis, who were looking for some missing demigod and some wolves. Jason then feels a shock go through him. His sister was here. Piper realizes that it's probably time to leave, but Midas says they are unable to leave, but he will give them a choice. Either be turned into gold statues or be killed by Lit's hand. Piper starts to object, but before she can, Midas is next to her with lightning speed and turns her into a gold statue. Leo tries to summon fire, but remembers that his powers aren't working, and then he too is turned into a gold statue. And now it's just Jason. Midas explains that all powers are muted in the presence of him, as gold beats anything. Jason chooses to fight Lit. In his battle, he's able to knock Lit to the ground. Jason then tells Midas to help his son up. Lit says no, but Midas doesn't realize what's about to happen. He goes to help his son up and turns him into a gold statue. Jason is extremely angry and focuses all of his power and summons a storm. Lightning zaps the roof away and rain pours in, turning Leo and Piper back to normal, but unconscious. With Hedge's help, Jason and he carry Leo and Piper away, and leave Midas with a bunch of angry statues who have just turned into a bunch of angry people who would like to have a word with Midas. Piper wakes up next to a campfire in a cave. Jason explains what happened, and Piper asks where they are, and Jason tells her Colorado. Piper asks how they got so far so fast, and Jason tells Piper that he harnessed some wind spirits to carry them. Jason explains that he followed the trail he saw in the sky until it stopped where they are. Piper then tells them the truth about her dreams and her dad being kidnapped, who is being guarded by a giant named Enceladus, and how the sleeping woman wants Piper to betray Leo and Jason in exchange for her father. The giant Enceladus wants Jason and Leo dead and said to Piper to bring them to the Bay Area to sidetrack them in their quest to rescue Hera. Piper expects Leo and Jason to be angry, but they're not. They understand, and after everything they've been through, they trust Piper with their lives. Piper cries and says she's probably condemned her father, but Coach Hedge says no, not yet. The giant won't kill him until the deadline of the quest passes, and the giant will still want him as leverage over Piper, hoping to sidetrack the quest. So Jason deduces this must mean that Hera is being kept somewhere else, and they need to rescue her or the giant king Porphyrion will be awakened. Jason says they must succeed in their quest, but they will also save Piper's father. Piper says there's no time and it's a trap, but Jason doesn't care. They'll figure it out. But first they need to find his exact location in the Bay Area, and maybe Aeolus, the wind god, can tell them. Hedge tells the demigods that the Bay Area has a bad reputation with monsters. Jason asks what he meant, and Hedge says it's where Mount Orpheus was, the home of the Titans during the war. Jason asks what happened to it, and Hedge says it just crumbled after Kronos was defeated. But Jason knows this isn't true. He then remembers something. Mount Orpheus was destroyed by Jason. But before Jason can say more, they hear someone coming. A pack of angry-looking wolves comes into the cave. Not the nice ones Jason dreamed about. This isn't Lupa. This pack is led by the king of wolves, Lycanon. And someone has told Lycanon about our heroes. Lycanon would love to kill Jason as Zeus turned Lycanon into the monster that he is. But unfortunately, Lycanon has other plans to deliver Jason alive to the wolf house, so someone else can have the pleasure of killing him. But Leo and Piper are free for the killing. Jason jumps up to block his friends. Jason soon realizes that their weapons are having no effect, and just when all hope seems lost, a silver arrow shoots into a wolf's neck. And then more arrows rain down. Soon the wolves retreat, but not before Lycanon says this isn't over. The hunters of Artemis appear, and with them is Thalia. Thalia tells some of the hunters to follow Lycanon and the others to guard the door. Thalia then turns to our heroes and asks if they're alright. Piper then blurts out Thalia's name, and Thalia is confused as they've never met them before and asks how they know her name. And then Jason says, "Because I'm Jason Grace, your brother." Thalia cries out, "She told me you were dead," and then embraces Jason in a hug. Thalia is sure it's her brother by the tiny scar Jason has on his lip. A scar Thalia tells Jason he got when he was 2 from trying to eat a stapler. Thalia asks Jason if he remembers anything, and Jason explains his quest and how Hera stole his memories, but yet Jason could recognize Thalia. Jason then asks Thalia who told her he was dead. Thalia tells Jason that their mother wasn't quite stable after Zeus left her, turning to alcohol. When Thalia was around 7, Zeus came back, but Thalia could tell he was just a tad bit different this time. And then Jason was born. Hera wasn't happy that Zeus would have not only one demigod kid with another woman, but 2. So Zeus named Jason Jason after Hera's favorite hero to appease her of sorts. But it seems it wasn't enough, and Zeus left again. Thalia then raised Jason on her own. When Jason was 2, their mother took them camping, and Thalia and Jason's mom told Thalia to run back to the car for something. When Thalia came back, her mother was crying by a cliff and was saying that Hera claimed Jason as an offering from Zeus. Thalia thought her mother had pushed Jason off the cliff and was completely devastating, thinking her brother was dead. Eventually, Thalia would run away, thinking her brother was dead the whole time until this moment. Jason asks where he has been all this time and what about all the Roman stuff. This confuses Thalia, and Jason explains the Latin, the tattoo, and calling gods by their Roman names. Thalia thinks for a second and remembers Zeus speaking Latin the second time he came around. So perhaps Zeus was in his Roman form, Jupiter, and Jason is a son of Jupiter, not Zeus. Leo asks if maybe there's another camp for demigods, a Roman camp. Thalia hasn't seen anything like it, but they'll have to figure it out later as Thalia needs to continue her search for Percy Jackson. But first she agrees to take our heroes to Aeolus. Thalia takes them to Pike's Peak, and above them is a floating island, the home of the wind god. And connecting the floating island to the mountain is a thin bridge of ice. They all cross it very slowly, and things are going well until Leo starts to panic as he comes to a realization. Leo, unable to control his powers, starts to get hot feet. Literally, he starts melting the bridge with his feet. Leo thinks that like the bridge they are on, Jason is a bridge, an exchange between 2 places. Leo then asks Jason what was the place he dreamed about, and Jason replies the Wolf House. Thalia recognizes this place and tells Jason he knows where it is, but before Thalia can say more, the bridge collapses, Jason flies Leo to the palace, but Thalia is on the other side, back at Pike's Peak. Thalia says to go on without her and she will meet them at the Wolf House. Jason reluctantly agrees as they now have less than 24 hours to rescue Hera and Piper's dad. They eventually reach the palace of Aeolus and are greeted by a wind nymph named Melly, who tells them that they are expecting them. On the way to the palace, something really weird happens. Melly and Hedge really hit it off. Melly then introduces them to Aeolus, and Aeolus greets Jason and asks him how it went. This really confuses Jason as he has no idea what he's talking about. Aeolus says they met last year, as Jason was about to go off and fight a sea monster. But of course, Jason doesn't remember this, so Jason changes the subject and gives Aeolus the rogue wind spirits that Boreads sent them to capture. Aeolus apologizes for giving an order to kill them on sight. He says it was almost as if someone else whispered in his ear to say that. But then he's angry at them all over again. And then not angry, and then angry. In fact, Aeolus is pretty bipolar. Jason tries to ask for information, saying that they've been told that Aeolus knows everything. Aeolus agrees as everything is whispered into the wind. Aeolus then pulls a paper drawing out of the sky, a paper that Leo recognizes immediately. The drawing of a boat he did when he was 5. Piper asks Aeolus if he can tell them where Enceladus is keeping her father, as Enceladus can then eventually lead them to where Hera is being captured. Aeolus then communicates with the Olympian gods, and after the gods tell Aeolus to help our heroes, he agrees. He tells them that they will find Piper's dad on Mount Diablo in San Francisco, the Bay Area. But then someone else contacts Aeolus, someone he says he hasn't spoken to in a very long time. Aeolus then apologizes but says to Jason that he now has to kill them. Melly blasts open the floor and helps our heroes escape. With her and Jason, they are able to shoot into the sky. Melly tells Hedge to iris message her before she disappears, and Jason and the others black out. While Piper is unconscious, she dreams. First of the night her and Jason got together on the wilderness school roof, but she quickly realizes that this is false as it never actually happened. The dream then shifts and Piper's back in Medea's department store. But instead of Medea, there's a beautiful woman, Aphrodite, her mom. Aphrodite warns Piper that Medea will be back, but she also tells Piper that the doors of death have been opened. Piper figures out what this means. The sleeping woman has opened a door in the underworld that is allowing all monsters and spirits to escape to the world of the living. Aphrodite then brings up Tristan, Piper's dad, and says that he never actually knew that Aphrodite was a goddess, as most mortals can't handle that type of news. She then gives Piper a potion of forgetfulness. She tells her to give it to her dad once rescued, as the memories he's experienced these past couple days will probably drive him insane. Aphrodite then tells Piper who the sleeping woman is. Gaia, the goddess of the earth herself, mother of titans, giants, and primordial gods. And she's waking after millennia asleep. She is powerful in sleep, but shall she wake, the entire world would be doomed. Aphrodite tells Piper that she has an important role to play, and then encourages her to wake up. And she does, in a cafe in California, transported there by Melly before she left. Our heroes enjoy a meal before setting off to Mount Diablo, which they can see in the distance. Piper then explains what she learned in the dream, most specifically who the sleeping woman is, Gaia. Our heroes then take a taxi up most of the mountain but have to hike the remaining distance. Our heroes plus Coach Hedge hide behind a ridge and see a 30-foot-tall giant, Enceladus, who has an unconscious Tristan McLean tied to a post. They come up with a plan. Leo sees a bulldozer and quietly makes his way to it, while Jason and Hedge cause a distraction. Next, Piper can hopefully rescue her dad undetected. But things do not go according to plan, as Enceladus shakes the mountain and everyone topples over and Piper is spotted. Enceladus tells Piper that she can leave with her dad if she swears loyalty and sacrifices Leo and Jason. Leo says this is a trap. The giant will just kill her anyway. Enceladus then reveals that he is the anti-Athena giant, designed to take the goddess down. In fact, each giant is designed to be the Achilles heel of a specific god or goddess. Therefore, Enceladus is clever and will break no deal. Jason prepares for an attack, but then Enceladus roars and earth monsters sprout from the ground, known as Earthborn. And now our heroes are very outmatched. Then all hell breaks loose. Jason charges Enceladus, Leo gets the bulldozer running to fight the Earthborn, and Piper rushes to her dad. Jason tries his best, but he isn't strong enough to beat Enceladus, and soon the giant has a spear pointed at Jason's chest. Thankfully, just in time, Leo manages to get a piece of machinery working to slam into Enceladus, and Piper comes over to help Jason. But Enceladus is fine and then reveals that giants can't be beaten by gods or demigods. Only by gods and demigods working together, and our heroes are in short supply of gods at the moment. Jason then tells Leo to get a rope ready and jumps on the giant's back and prays to his father. And Jupiter answers in the form of a storm. Jason, with the help of Jupiter, summons a lightning strike so powerful it splits the mountain and Enceladus falls into the crack. But Jason is able to grab the rope that Leo throws at him and climbs out just in time before the earth seals itself back shut. Piper then rushes over to free her dad, who is not in good shape and is unable to walk. So Leo pulls a bullhorn out of his tool belt and hands it to Piper. Using her charm speak, she's able to get a helicopter to land to help them out. They get in the helicopter and Tristan McLean keeps mumbling about giants and monsters. Piper explains all to her father, and while he is proud of her, he's also terrified. They then land at an airport and Piper tells her friend sorry, but she needs to get her father home. But her father refuses, saying that Piper needs to finish this quest. Coach Hedge then volunteers to look after Tristan. Piper is hesitant but agrees. Piper then brings out the potion of forgetfulness given to her by Aphrodite and tells her dad if he drinks it, he won't remember any of this. Tristan is hesitant about this as he won't remember what a hero Piper is, but Piper says it's okay. So Tristan drinks the potion and falls asleep. Then our heroes receive an iris message from Thalia, who has found Hera, and they were running out of time as the king of giants, Porphyrion, is rising. Thalia tells them that she's at the Wolf House, and then Jason finally remembers where it is. Piper convinces the pilot to lend them the helicopter, and Leo, after touching the machine, instantly knows how to fly it. So our heroes set off to save Hera. On the way there, Jason explains that the Wolf House was built by a son of Mercury and is a powerful place for demigods. Many demigods start their journey there, including Jason. But yet, for some reason, none of these demigods ever made it to Camp Half-Blood. Jason isn't sure why, but he is starting to remember things. And then, all of a sudden, they fly into a snowstorm in California, so Jason figures they must be getting close. Then their helicopter is almost brought down by a hurricane, but Leo is able to crash their helicopter safely. Demigods are okay, helicopter is not. They meet up with Thalia, who is locked in battle with Earthborn wolves and storm spirits. Thalia tells them that Hera is inside, but they haven't been able to free her. Jason then remembers how he originally came to be at the Wolf House. His mother, as per Hera's request, gave Jason to Lupa the wolf to take him here and begin his training. Thalia wants to know more, but Leo says this isn't the time. So then they go inside and they find Hera in a cage made of earth. Hera then points to a giant slowly rising in the corner, Porphyrion, king of giants. Hera says that Gaia has been using Hera's power to revive him, and they need to quickly free her before he awakes. Hera then tells Leo that he can figure out how to free her. Jason then remembers the prophecy, the forge and dove shall break the cage. Leo and Piper need to work together to free Hera. But Leo needs time to figure it out, and unfortunately our heroes are in short supply of that, as Chione and her brothers have just joined the battle, and they're angry at our demigods. Chione is working for Gaia in hopes of destroying the roots of the gods forever. First Hera, and then they will head to Greece to fully wake Gaia. Chione will then pit Jason's brethren against the demigods of Camp Half-Blood. And worst of all, Chione froze Thalia and Jason's weapon is broken. So Jason picks up an icicle and heads into battle. Things are not going well for him until he tames a wind horse named Tempest. Thankfully, Leo's fiery aura is keeping everyone from freezing like Thalia. Leo manages to get Chione to retreat, but Hera is slowly being swallowed by the earth, and they are running out of time. Leo then tells Piper to talk to the cage, to tell it to go back to sleep. In other words, to tell Gaia to go back to sleep. And miraculously, it's kind of working. But the cage is still there, so Leo pulls out a saw. But he needs an outlet. Thankfully, Tempest offers up his services. Apparently, wind horses come with power outlets. But unfortunately, nothing is easy for our heroes. Porphyrion has just awoken, and he has his sights set on our heroes. So Jason goes to face him in order to buy Leo and Piper some time. Turns out Porphyrion is the anti-Zeus, so not a great matchup for Jason. But Jason doesn't care. He is a son of Jupiter, son of Rome, and praetor of the 12th Legion. Jason doesn't know what any of that means, but he knows it's true. Jason is able to hold off Porphyrion long enough for Leo and Piper to free Hera. Hera tells our heroes to close their eyes and assumes her true form, and the remaining enemies dissolve into ash, except Porphyrion, who manages to escape. All the hunters and Thalia are also thawed out. However, Jason didn't cover his eyes in time and saw Hera's true form, something that means instant death. Jason's body falls in a steaming mass. However, Jason isn't quite dead yet. He can hear voices, Thalia and Piper calling to him. Piper, miraculously charming all of her power into her charm speak, wills Jason to wake up. And he does. Hera is absolutely shocked that a mortal survived her true form. Hera tells them that unfortunately they have only delayed Gaia from waking, but have not prevented it, and she is still out there, scheming. Jason wants to talk to Thalia, but everyone agrees that it can wait, and our three heroes of the quest need to head back to Camp Half-Blood to let everyone know what happened, and how they have a much bigger quest ahead of them in Greece. Hera says that she can help, and all of a sudden, the world turns upside down, and our heroes are back at Camp Half-Blood. Our heroes arrive back at dinner and tell everyone what happened. Afterwards, our heroes go to their respective cabins for a well-deserved night's sleep. In the morning, with newfound confidence, Piper challenges Drew for control and the head counselor position of Cabin 10. Eventually, Drew backs down and Cabin 10 rejoices. And Piper also tells Drew to stay away from Jason Grace. Piper then calls her dad to check on him, and miraculously he's doing very well with a new assistant, Melly, the wind nymph, and Coach Hedge is sticking around to keep an eye on him. Piper then meets up with Jason, and the two of them find Leo, who has something to show them. Piper and Jason meet up with the whole camp outside Bunker 9. Leo finally shows the whole camp. Leo then shows Piper and Jason the drawing he made when he was 5, the drawing of a boat, the same boat that is on a blueprint in Bunker 9. And get this, the masthead in the blueprint is Festus. Leo names the boat the Argo II in honor of Jason, and he's gonna build it so they can sail to Greece and beat Gaia and the giants. Chiron says Leo has 6 months, as they must set sail by the summer solstice. Later on, Hera comes to speak to Jason and explains to Jason that she made an exchange of camp leaders. Jason worries about Greeks and Romans fighting each other, but Hera says them reuniting is the only way to stop Gaia from rising. Jason is then summoned to a war council meeting and Hera takes her leave. Chiron reveals that there is indeed another group of demigods, the Romans. Jason says they're more warlike than the Greeks. As the Greeks fought Kronos in Manhattan, the Romans took down Mount Orpheus in California. The gods have kept the two sides apart as they have always fought in the past. But now Hera believes it's time to unite the two sides. As per the last line of the prophecy, foes bear arms to the doors of death. 4 demigods of the prophecy of 7 are pretty clear: Jason, Leo, Piper, and Annabeth. But who are the other 3? I bet one of them starts with a P and ends in a Jackson. But to officially find out, our heroes need to set sail for the Roman camp. Jason then explains what Hera said about the exchange. If Jason came to Camp Half-Blood with no memories, there's a good chance Percy Jackson was sent to the Roman camp with no memories. But to answer that question, first we need to take a trip to Camp Jupiter. Up next in the Heroes of Olympus series, the son of Neptune. But that's for next time. So for right now, I'm signing off. I hope you enjoyed this recap of The Lost Hero. Who's your new favorite demigod? Let me know down in the comments below. But until next time, I'm signing off. So please always remember to stay safe.